Outgrowing the Scapegoat Psychology, Healing the Trauma of Being Blamed. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11-time published author, and this is The Black Sheep Becomes the Goat. You're in Volume 2, Cringe Mountain, where we tackle the uncomfortable, the awkward, and the necessary stages of transformation. Today's episode is called Outgrowing the Scapegoat Psychology, Healing the Trauma of Being Blamed. Let's dive in. The scapegoat role. The burden of blame. As a black sheep, one of the most insidious patterns you likely faced was being cast as the scapegoat. This was not just being blamed for things you didn't do, it was being held responsible for the emotional, psychological, and social dysfunction of others. In toxic family systems, manipulative relationships, or controlling environments, the scapegoat is the designated recipient of all the system's chaos and unresolved issues. You were made to feel like the source of every problem. The family's pain was your fault. The dysfunction in the workplace was your doing. The fractured relationships in your community were because of something you said or didn't say. And when you internalize this blame, it doesn't just become a role, it becomes your identity. Being the scapegoat meant that you weren't allowed to be whole. You were forced to carry the emotional and spiritual weight of others' actions and failures. You were the one who needed to change, needed to fix things, and needed to apologize for dynamics that had nothing to do with you. The deeper you sunk into this role, the more disconnected you became from your true self. The more you tried to justify, defend, or over-explain your actions, the further away you got from your authentic truth. But here's the key. Being blamed doesn't make you the cause. Being blamed doesn't make you broken. Being blamed doesn't make you less than. It makes you a target. And that's a huge difference. The emotional and psychological damage of scapegoating. The damage done by being blamed for things you didn't cause isn't just emotional, it's physiological. The stress of being consistently blamed takes a toll on your nervous system, your sense of self-worth, and your ability to trust. It teaches you that you are the problem, and that the external world will only accept you when you are perfect, pleasing, and malleable. That's a massive burden for anyone to carry. And over time, it creates a subconscious belief that you are fundamentally flawed, unworthy of love or acceptance unless you constantly apologize, defend, or fix. This becomes an emotional pattern you can't shake. Even in relationships, work environments, or social circles that aren't toxic, you may still revert to self-blame. You may feel like the burden is always on you. If something goes wrong, it's your fault. If there's an issue, you must fix it. If someone is upset, you need to smooth things over even if you did nothing wrong. This cycle is harmful, both psychologically and physically. It keeps you in a chronic state of stress and self-doubt. It makes you question your decisions, your voice, and your boundaries. It locks you in a cycle of people-pleasing and self-sacrifice, constantly shrinking to fit a role that was never yours to begin with. Releasing the scapegoat identity. If you've been carrying the scapegoat role for most of your life, it's going to take time and conscious effort to let go of it. But letting go is absolutely essential if you are going to step into your true power. The first step in releasing the scapegoat identity is to acknowledge the trauma it has caused you. You must give yourself permission to feel the weight of that blame, but also to realize it was never yours to carry. It's critical that you separate your actions from the projections of others. The projections of blame, guilt, and shame they placed on you are reflections of their dysfunction, not yours. You are not inherently flawed. You are not the problem. You never were. But for as long as you stayed in the role of the scapegoat, you allowed that false narrative to dictate your reality. The healing comes from recognizing that their blame is not your responsibility and that you are allowed to walk free of their projections. Once you do this, the next step is to reclaim your personal power. To do this, you must start building new beliefs about who you are, beliefs based on your true worth and your authentic nature, not on the toxic, misattributed roles of your past. You are not here to fix others. You are not here to carry their emotional burdens. You are not here to be a punching bag for their unresolved issues. This is about releasing guilt, shame, and self-blame. It's about replacing those false beliefs with new affirmations. You are not the problem. You are the solution. You are worthy. You are whole. You are enough. Reframing self-worth beyond the scapegoat role. In the process of healing from the scapegoat trauma, one of the most transformative things you can do is to reframe your sense of self-worth. Growing up as the scapegoat, you may have learned to tie your value to how well you took care of others, how much you sacrificed, or how much you fixed for those around you. This external validation kept you stuck in the cycle of pleasing, rescuing, and proving yourself. But true self-worth comes from within, not from fixing or rescuing others. To break free from the old narrative, you need to start looking at your intrinsic value. You have worth not because of what you do for others, but because of who you are. And who you are is enough. You do not need to prove yourself. You do not need to apologize for your existence. You do not need to shrink to make space for others. You are allowed to take up space, to speak your truth, and to live unapologetically. This shift is vital for Black Sheep because it means you stop defining yourself based on the dysfunction of others. The more you release the old identity of the scapegoat, the more you begin to recognize your innate value, your gifts, and your purpose. You are not a product of the projections put on you. You are a creator, a leader, and a visionary. Healing through boundaries and self-compassion. One of the most critical parts of releasing the scapegoat identity is learning to set and maintain healthy boundaries. For years, you may have been taught that your worth was tied to your ability to serve others, fix their problems, and make them feel better. But true self-worth comes from knowing when to step back, say no, and create space for your own needs. Boundaries are not walls, they are structures of self-respect. They are how you protect your energy, your emotions, and your sense of self. And learning to set boundaries is key to healing from the trauma of being blamed. When you say no to toxic energy, you are saying yes to your own peace. You are saying yes to your right to exist without carrying the weight of others' dysfunction. Self-compassion also plays a huge role in this healing process. You must forgive yourself for believing the lie that you were the problem. You must forgive yourself for shrinking, for apologizing when it wasn't your fault, and for carrying guilt that wasn't yours. You did what you needed to survive. But now, it's time to stop the cycle of self-judgment. It's time to love yourself unconditionally. Healing from the trauma of being blamed, of being the scapegoat, is a process. It requires patience, self-love, and a willingness to rewrite the story that was forced upon you. The black sheep identity was born out of rejection and survival. But it is not who you are at your core. You are not the problem. You are the solution. And as you release the scapegoat role, you will begin to step into your true identity, a powerful, sovereign being who no longer needs to prove their worth to anyone. You are worthy because you exist. You are whole because you have always been. Now, it's time to rise free from blame, free from guilt, and fully aligned with your true self. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and what you just watched is part of my signature program, the Chosen One series inside School of Soul. This series is not just a course, it's a blueprint for those who know they were different from the start. The black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the cycle breaker. Inside, you'll discover the family roles playbook, the golden child, the scapegoat, the enabler, the lost child, and how to finally step out of the part you were cast in without consent. How the black sheep becomes the goat, turning rejection into radical transformation and leadership. How to break generational curses and rewrite ancestral contracts so the pain stops with you. And how to recognize and escape modern forms of spiritual and technological targeting, from gang stalking to synthetic synchronicity. This isn't just about survival. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your voice, your lineage, and your destiny as one of the chosen ones. Click the link below to access the full series now, because the role ends the moment you decide it does, and the real script begins with you.